In 2025, the President of the United States picked up the phone and called the Supreme Leader of Iran. Not through a diplomat, not through a back channel, not through the United Nations. He picked up the phone himself. The man, often described as unconventional, was now the only person on the planet attempting to resolve a major international crisis with a direct phone call. And here's the part nobody talks about. It might actually be working. This is not the story the media tells you about Donald Trump. This is the other one. The one that starts with a boy in Queens who was sent away by his own father at 13. The one that goes through 4 bankruptcies, a destroyed marriage, a public humiliation so complete that the entire world laughed, and ends with the most improbable political comeback in American history. You think you know this man. You don't. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946 in Queens, New York. His father, Fred Trump, was a real estate developer. Hard, exacting, transactional. A man who measured love in discipline and success. His mother, Mary, was a Scottish immigrant who brought warmth into a household that didn't always know what to do with it. Queens in the 1950s was not Manhattan. It was outer borough, second tier. The kind of place that looked across the river at the Manhattan skyline and felt the distance like a personal insult. Donald felt that distance every single day. At 13, his father made a decision. Donald was too wild, too loud, too much. He was sent to the New York Military Academy, a strict boarding school 2 hours north of the city. He didn't come home for months. Years later, Trump would say the military academy gave him discipline, gave him structure. What he never said, and what everyone around him noticed, was that it also gave him something else. A permanent, burning need to prove himself to a father who had sent him away. At 25, Trump joined his father's real estate company and immediately began pushing beyond its borders. Fred Trump built affordable housing in Queens and Brooklyn. Solid, unglamorous, profitable. Donald wanted Manhattan. Everyone told him Manhattan was impossible. The established players were too powerful. The money was too big. The risks were too high. Donald heard none of it. In 1978, he converted the dying Commodore Hotel next to Grand Central Station into the Grand Hyatt, his first Manhattan deal. He was 32 years old. In 1983, Trump Tower opened on 5th Avenue. 68 floors of gold-tinted glass, rising above one of the most expensive streets in the world. The boy from Queens had arrived. But arrival was never enough. It was never going to be enough, because the voice in the back of his head, the one installed at 13 in a military academy, didn't want arrival. It wanted dominance. The 1980s made Donald Trump a celebrity. The 1990s nearly destroyed him. The Taj Mahal Casino in Atlantic City, Plaza Hotel, Trump Airline, the Trump Shuttle, each one bigger than the last, each one leveraged beyond what any rational analysis could support. By 1991, the Taj Mahal filed for bankruptcy. By 1992, the Plaza followed. His personal debt reached $900 million. Not the company's debt, his personal debt. $900 million. The banks sat him down and told him he was worth more alive than bankrupt, but only barely. They restructured his debt and gave him a monthly allowance of $450,000 to live on. An allowance. The man who had put his name in gold letters on buildings across Manhattan was on an allowance from his own creditors. His marriage to Ivana collapsed publicly and brutally in the tabloid. His affair with Marla Maples played out on the front page of the New York Post every single morning. New York openly ridiculed him, and his public image suffered significantly. And here is what nobody expected. He came back. The mid-1990s. Every serious person in New York real estate had written Donald Trump off. He didn't negotiate, he didn't apologize, he didn't reinvent himself. He simply started again, with the same aggression, the same scale, the same absolute refusal to accept the verdict the world had handed. New buildings, new deals, new licensing arrangements that put his name on properties he didn't even own. The Trump brand became the product of. And then, in 2004, something completely unexpected happened. A television show called The Apprentice turned Donald Trump into the most famous businessman in America. 50 million people a week watched him sit at the head of a boardroom table and say 2 words: "You're fired." The man the banks had put on an allowance was now a global icon of executive power. For years, the political world treated Trump's presidential ambitions as a punchline. In 2015, he rode a golden escalator down to a lobby of cameras and announced he was running for president of the United States. The anchors laughed on air. The consultants calculated his chances at 0. The Republican establishment began preparing to crush him. 16 professional politicians lined up against him in the primary. He defeated every single one of them. November 8, 2016. The results came in. The anchors stopped laughing. Donald Trump, the bankrupt casino owner, the reality TV host, the man New York ridiculed for 20 years, had just been elected the 45th president of the United States. The political world had no framework for what had just happened. It still doesn't. The first term was unlike anything American politics had seen. The economy grew. Unemployment fell to historic lows, including for Black and Hispanic Americans. The Abraham Accords normalized relations between Israel and multiple Arab nations. NATO allies were forced to increase their defense spend. A new trade war with China reshaped global supply chain. And simultaneously, the investigation, the impeachment, the media coverage that ran at a temperature no presidency had ever sustained. insane. Every single day felt like a historic event. His supporters saw a fight, his opponents saw a threat, and the country split along lines so deep that families stopped speaking to each other at dinner tables across America. Then came 2020, a pandemic, a closely contested election period, and the events of January 6th. And then something that had genuinely never happened before in American history. An ex-president faced multiple legal challenges and charges, one after another. 4 cases simultaneous. The political establishment waited for him to collapse. He didn't collapse. He ran again. November 5th, 2024. Donald Trump won the presidential election for the second time, becoming only the second president in American history to serve non-consecutive terms. He won the popular vote, something he had never done before. The man who had faced significant legal challenges with numerous charges, who had been removed from ballots in multiple states, who had faced severe security challenges, walked back into the White House on January 20th, 2025, and immediately began governing at a pace that left Washington breathless. Tariff, border policy, federal restructuring, executive orders signed at a speed that made his first term look slow. Love him or hate him, nobody could look away. And then came the moment that may define Iran. For decades, the relationship between the United States and Iran had been managed through proxy, backchannel, diplomatic formula, a careful, frozen standoff maintained by professionals who understood its parameters. Trump threw the parameters away. In 2025, as Iran's nuclear program reached its most advanced stage, as the window for diplomatic resolution narrowed toward closing, Trump made a move that shocked the foreign policy establishment. He reached out directly to Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, not through intermediaries. Direct communication. He gave Iran a choice with absolute clarity: negotiate a new deal or face severe repercussions unlike anything the regime had ever calculated. The foreign policy establishment called it reckless. Trump called it honor. And then, in a development that left analysts reaching for historical comparison, Iran came to the table. Talks began, back and forth. The outcome uncertain. The stake existential. In this hypothetical scenario, a nuclear-armed Iran could reshape the entire Middle East, potentially triggering a cascade of proliferation across South. Here is what 78 years of Donald Trump's life actually tells you. The truth about a person's journey often reveals that external judgments are never final. Not bankruptcy, not legal challenges, not public humiliation, not even difficult childhood experiences. The most powerful perspective is the one you choose to embrace. If stories like this make you think, you know what to do. Drop your take in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the figures reshaping our world, make sure you're subscribed.